really tried my best. Did I pass your test? My mind goes in many directions. I don't really want it to go when I'm thinking it's not something that I need. As you see, I'm overthinking you. Is this what life is supposed to be? Am I ready for it? I guess I can't ignore it. I want to show you that I care. I haven't found the words, ones you haven't heard. My mind goes in many directions. I don't really want it to go when I'm thinking it's not something that I need. As you see, I'm overthinking. It's just something that I do. As you see, I'm overthinking you. Thank you. That song was called Overthinking. It's from an album that I released last February. The song is about kind of getting in your head over something or someone and just thinking way too much about it, as I think all of us tend to do about some things from time to time. This next song is called Waiting, and it's about being unsure about who you are and waiting until waiting for time to tell you who it is you're going to be, and for yourself to discover yourself. So. I've been waiting for something to give me a sign. That the time is right. That the time is right to make life mine. But my mind just keeps on holding me back. I don't know how long I'll last, so I'm waiting. I'm not quite sure who I wanna be, so I'm waiting for what I can't tell what's wrong or right for me. But my mind just keeps on holding me back. I don't know how long I'll last, so I'm waiting. I live my life in anxiety. I'm not quite sure who I wanna be, so I'm waiting for what? Time keeps moving forward. It's not waiting for you. Younger self, I'll tell you. Don't forget to stay true to yourself. My mind just keeps on holding me back. I don't know how long I'll last, so I'm waiting. Live my life in anxiety. I'm not quite sure who I wanna be, so I'm waiting. For what? Time keeps moving forward. It's not waiting for you. Younger self, I'll tell you. Don't forget to stay true to yourself. Thank you. My name is Darian Clark. How we doing on? All right. We're going to have speakers up soon. Just want to say welcome to this year's 4th annual Speak Up event, and we'll have a speaker with you shortly.
Good evening and welcome to Speak Up 2022. Like Darian said, this is the 4th annual Speak Up event and the 2nd of which to be broadcasted online for those who can't make it to be here in person. To those of you tuning in virtually, hello. Whether you're here in the ballroom with us in person or at home online, we are so glad you're all here tonight, despite the weather complications that forced us to reschedule from our original date. We hope that you're ready for an evening of wonderful speakers and a night of discovering what identity really means. My name is Lauren Werscher. I'm a sophomore student here at MSUM and I work in the Office of Student Activities, and I am so excited to be your MC this evening. I'll admit I'm a little nervous to be up here speaking in front of all of you, but you're not here to listen to me talk, so I'll make sure to keep it rolling. Just some housekeeping notes before we start. Feel free to help yourself to some snacks and refreshments in the back at any time throughout the program. We just ask that you be courteous to those around you. We also have restrooms outside the ballroom and a gender-neutral bathroom downstairs. Before we get too far into tonight's show, though, can we give it up for our pre-show performer, Darian Clark? Darian Clark is an independent singer, songwriter, and musician from Minnesota. He also studies entertainment industries and technology here at MSUM. Across his 2 albums, Darian's music explores themes of love and self-identity, which fits perfectly in with the theme of tonight's event. He also performs in the local rock band Gradients. A big thank you to Darian for helping us kick off Speak Up 2022. Let's give him another round of applause. As we begin tonight, it is important to acknowledge the land that MSUM is on. MSUM acknowledges that it occupies the ancestral land of the Anishinaabe Ojibwe, Dakota Sisseton, Wahpeton, and Yanktonai Dakota First Nations. With respect, we honor the elders, past and present, who have stewarded this land through generations. We acknowledge that we are on these traditional lands as a demonstration of our respect and understanding of where we are. We strive to build towards a better relationship between our university and the Indigenous people still present with us. Now, you might be wondering, what is Speak Up? Speak Up was created in 2019 by MSUM students who wanted to build a platform for sharing ideas. Much like a TED Talk or TEDx event, Speak Up will feature multiple speakers and performers. And the speakers will each speak on an idea that they are passionate about. Tonight we'll learn from 6 speakers, all of whom are MSUM students, alumni, and staff. Each speaker has been working long and hard on an idea to share with us today, and they are so excited to share this work with you all tonight. This year, the Speak Up planning team decided on a theme of the purpose of identity. The purpose of identity can mean different things to different people. It challenges us to recognize and honor what makes each person unique. Identities are multifaceted and influenced by our experiences, along with factors within and outside our control. Through tonight's event, you will be asked to consider how the concept of identity shapes your life. From the speakers' talks, you will gain a better understanding of yourselves and others. We want to challenge you to think about your identity as more than just what's on the surface and look deeper into what makes you, you. Okay, I think now you've heard about enough from me, so let me introduce the first speaker of the night. Tonight, we are going to kick off the event with Bradley Bankin as our first speaker. Bradley is an MSUM alumni from the spring class of 2020. In his time at MSUM, he was heavily involved on campus in Public Relations Society, DECA, musical theater ensemble, as well as serving as a student orientation counselor and working for the first-year programs as their communications manager. These experiences led him towards his current job at Flint Group as an account manager. When he's not at work, you can find him coaching Red River Infinity Volleyball, spending time with friends and family, singing, dancing, playing the piano, shooting photography, and making TikToks. Like many students, Bradley had no idea what he wanted to do after graduation. Because of this, he has a soft spot for career and personal development that has led him to create his side business, 2B Creative Studios. Currently, he does photography with the hopes to develop into a small business focused on creating brands for both people and small businesses. Finding out who you are is a big part of college, and he's excited to show people that there is more to identity than what they initially think. Let's welcome Bradley to the stage with a round of applause.
About to give a speech. Kind of nervous. If anyone's got any last-minute tips, swipe up. Jokes would be appreciated. Most of us have grown up fully integrated into the digital age. As the first generation to have iPhones in elementary school, being part of the digital world has never felt too foreign. Whether this is a simple text to a friend, a tweet that you send out, or more recently, a TikTok dance. The world of communications and the digital age have been a core part of our lives, and unknowingly, so has our digital identity. For my overview people, this is a list of what we're going to be talking about, but let's get right into it. What is a digital identity? It simply boils down to an online identity networked and adopted by someone in cyberspace. In other terms, it is simply our personal identity that someone adopts or creates. The big difference between this is the fact that we create this and we have full access to what is shown in our digital identity. So these are things that are all parts of our digital identity, and one of these gives us the most control over our digital identity, and that's our social media profiles. How can we use social media to expand our digital identity? Well, this is college now. Class sizes are bigger. More people are in our classes with different strengths, interests, and personal identities. So how do you stand out? Just like a company would, by creating a personal brand. So let's break that down. What is all part of a brand? Again, for my definition people, it is a name, sign, symbol, etc. And for my visual people, it is names, logos, quotes, special events, and Taylor Swift. I mean music and art. Remember, brands don't always have to associate with a physical product, and they can be other things such as music, art, and more recently, social media influencers. And yes, by the end of this, you will all be social media influencers. So let's break it down. How do we create our personal digital brand? First up, you got to define your why. So you have to define the goal of your social media. This can be anything from something as simple as a musician sharing their music, or a parent sharing their kids to their friends and family. Our goal doesn't have to be something super expansive to be important. Next, you got to audit yourself. Take a quick Google search of yourself, and what will you find? When I took the time to Google myself, I learned that I can juggle, and a lot about my time here at MSUM. So what can you find when you Google yourself? In order to build from where you're at, you got to know where you're starting from. Next, know yourself. What are your beliefs, your purposes, your niches, interests, etc.? By finding out these things, you can narrow down on what's important for you to focus on your social media profiles. There are millions of profiles out there on every social platform, so you really want to focus down on something in order to stand out. How many of us follow a fashion blogger or a fitness influencer of some sort? These are two great examples of niches that are focused and dedicated to something specific. But at the end of the day, you have to do what's most important to you. Next, create a branding guideline. Write it down. So for me, my name's Bradley Bankin, and my goal is to create connection through the world. Boom, goal written down. Other things to consider when you're creating your branding guideline are photo styles, writing styles, branding colors, what kind of niche you want to focus on, and topics you want to cover, and how often you want to post, and what platforms. Finally, do you want to be public or private? For a lot of us, we don't want to be out on the digital world, and that's fine. But also, on the other hand, you can also have a private profile for friends and family, and a public profile for everything else. So how do we look at this again? Just like when you're writing a story in English, you focus on the 5 W's and an H. So who? That's you, easy peasy. Next, what? We're going to focus on expanding our digital identity through the use of social media. Where? Choose the platforms that work best for you. Each one of the social media platforms has their own uses and niches that can focus on who you are as a person. Why? Refer back to that goal you set in step 1. When? How often do you want to post? How much do you want to be out there? And finally, how? There are tons of right ways to make a social media account. And by the end of the day, you just have to focus on being authentic to who you are and what you think is important to you. To put it in another way, here's an example through my sister. This is my sister, Justine. That's the who. Her what is sharing her family and life with the public. Where does she do this? My example has Instagram, but she also uses Facebook and other profiles. Her why is to celebrate her family and the growth of her kids. When? She posts 3 times monthly. And how? 2 of her posts focus on family life, whether this is a birthday, a trip to the park, or a movie night inside. And then her 3rd post focuses on the first 12 months of little Elsie there. That lines up in a nice row. It doesn't have to be super complicated for it to be important to someone. Life's all about connection. So let's get more connected by getting into our major with some digital branding tactics and taking an example of what a digital brand can look like. For me, this looks like this. These are the profiles I use, which is Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and a personal website. In the last few years, I have focused my social media on connecting with people both professionally and socially. Now, how do we do this then? How do we communicate? With social media, there are 2 main ways you can communicate. One of these is visual, and the other is written. As you may have noticed, I don't use a Twitter account, and that's for 2 main reasons. 1, I hate writing, and 2, I'm not funny. The next thing is to think like a recruiter, or like your audience member. Like I said, for the past few years, my profile has been focused on building my career and connecting with people both personally and professionally. With that, I've run all of my posts through the lens of if a recruiter was looking at it. And I try to stand out by posting things related to my career in marketing, whether this is photography or marketing insights to my profiles to create expertise. For you, it'll be creating expertise with your audience members. And again, that will refer back to your niche that you chose at the beginning. Finally, be authentic. I can't hit this enough. If it's not you, it's not you. And that's okay. Just focus down on what's important to you. Which actually leads me into another important piece. Changing your major, or rebranding. Just like we're not the same people we were in high school, you grow and develop, and so does your social media along with you. As you can see, these are all of my archived posts through Instagram, and I no longer look like the kid in the bottom left corner with an afro. Just like that, you'll grow and change with your social media. So some tips when it comes to rebranding. It doesn't happen in one day. Rebranding takes time, and that's okay. For me, it's going to look very different. As Lauren mentioned, I am very into music and dance and art. And so I've started to incorporate more of that into my profiles as I move more into my career. For you, this might look very different, and that's totally okay. Remember, when you rebrand, it's really your profile 1.5, meaning that you don't throw away all the content that you created before, you integrate it in new ways. And finally, talk to your audience. Say, hey, I'm interested in posting more dance videos. How do you want to see this incorporated? And at the end of the day, be authentic to yourself. If you open your social media profiles one day and see a stranger, that's not your digital identity. It's someone else's. Finals, expanding your brand. Oop, come on, clicker. First off, in expanding your brand is taking it offline. Like I said, my goal for the past few years has been connecting with people, both professionally and personally. So for me, taking it offline is getting coffee with a professional in the area. But for my sister, it might be hanging out with a local mom friend that she met through Instagram. Taking it offline is an important step in developing your digital identity. A great example of this is I have an interest in photography, and so to expand that skill, I reached out to a local photographer who could see I had the interest through my Instagram profile. She then took me on as an assistant. So if your profile reflects an interest that you have, they'll be more likely to reach out to you. Second, share your expertise. In the world of TikTok, content creation has become ever more important to companies. So how can you use your content creation abilities to expand your worth to a company you want to work for in the future? This can apply to all brands. For example, I have a friend who is a city planner, and he is currently taking over their Twitter account, which he never expected to do when he went to classes. How can you use your experience in content creation to expand your career in the future? Look at that, we made it to graduation in just 8 minutes. But what have we learned? In these last 8 minutes, we have learned what a digital identity is and how to create a personal brand. We headed to class with the basics of creating your personal brand. And finally, we took the final as we learned about what a digital brand can look like and how to convert interests. Whether you want to be the next social media influencer or simply share your life with your friends and family, remember the power that your digital identity has. Now, who wants to take a selfie?
Bradley, thank you for sharing your story with us and helping us think about how our digital identities, and how we can show up online and in person as the same person. We don't need a fake online persona. We can be who we are without all those strings attached. All right, are you ready for the second speaker of the evening? Allow me to introduce Nicole Sandoval. Nicole is a sophomore psychology student who is part of the Delta Zeta sorority, Crossroads Lutheran Campus Ministry, and Dragon's Mental Health, a student organization focused on changing the stigma around mental health. She hopes to one day work with kids and their mental health needs. Every day, she lives trying to make a positive impact on others while taking care of herself. Tonight, she will discuss the importance of intersectionality in your identity and living your authentic self. Let's welcome Nicole to the stage.
Hi. So last year, I was living in Holmquist Hall, and it was below 0 in Minnesota, as usual. And my taxi driver was coming to pick me up for my doctor's appointment. When the taxi driver finally arrived, I got in, and the driver looked confused at me. My full name is Tirza Nicole Sandoval, with my first name being of Hebrew origins and my last name being of Spanish origins. So this driver was probably expecting someone with darker tones. I am not. I am as pale as the snow outside right now, so I was definitely not who he was expecting. But we laughed and talked about it, and it brought up some good conversation. But this was a great example of how intersectionality existed in my name, and the driver was expecting someone other than me. We all have intersectionality in our identities. Oxford Languages defines intersectionality as the interconnected nature of social categorizations, such as race, class, and gender, as they apply to a given individual or group, regarded as created overlapping and independent systems of discrimination and disadvantage. That was complicated. Whatever it be from race, gender, religion, or sexual orientations, even small things like being a cat lady can be a part of your identity, unless that's just me. I'm a white Christian female who is receiving a college education. I am part Native American who is also in a sorority, as well as being an LGBT ally. I am a 19-year-old who just found out I had ADHD last year. So much was going in my identity, and I felt like I was 5 different people in high school. All these different identities didn't intersect at once, though, because I was afraid of what others would think. It was crazy and exhausting to be all these different people. And I was getting so much slack for not being the image I was supposed to be, hence my different identities. No one sees me as being Native American because of my white skin. People got upset with me for being a Christian and being an LGBT ally at the same time. I was not my true, authentic identity, and I didn't allow intersectionality to happen, especially being a Christian and an LGBT ally. I was always told my beliefs were wrong, and I was shamed and judged. Being told a Christian and an accepting LGBT community was unacceptable. So in public, I kept my mouth shut while the passionate side of me burned, longing to be free. Then I started college. I came here to MSUM with the intent of being someone new, being myself. I didn't know many people, so this was the perfect time to start my journey. And college is where you start making professional connections. If someone wants to hire me, I want them to hire me, not someone I pretend to be. I want to make lifelong friends who stay connected because they know who I am, not who I try to act to be. I started going to the student organizations called Crossroads Lutheran Ministries. Crossroads was different than what I used to be, in a positive way, though. They helped me start this adventure of living my authentic self. They are a faith-based organization who aligned with my beliefs. I was able to be a Christian and an LGBT ally. I was able to be myself without fear, judgment, and shame. There was a pastor who supported me. I was able to express myself freely, use my voice and energy in ways I've always wanted to. I even created a position for our student org, the Diversity and Outreach student leader, so I could make campus a more positive and accepting area for all students. No one ever said, actually, that's wrong, or you can't do that. They just let me be and explore all opportunities available. This kick-started things for me. In college, I became one whole person, my true, authentic self. I became someone who was open about my beliefs and my mental health. I stopped pretending everything was constantly okay and allowed myself to be. However, just because you're in a new place doesn't mean that you're a whole new you. A different place just allows you to explore the parts of your identity that you hid or kept secret or actively separated. College is a place to start becoming your authentic self. You don't know many, there are lots of places to explore, and it's a fresh start. You have a choice. Life the way you always had, or exploring your identity and start becoming yourself. How do you become your authentic self? Especially with intersectionality becoming a factor. The first step is to accept yourself. Accept all the things about you, even the ones that tend to clash with each other. Come at peace knowing that you are you and that there's nothing wrong with that. During my first year of college, I accepted the fact that I was an LGBT affirming Christian. I accepted that I was Native American and white. I accepted the fact that I was a college student with mental illnesses. I came to peace with that. And it helps you feel free because you're not fighting with yourself anymore, and that becomes easier to show yourself to others. Next thing you do is surround yourself with support. Find the things that don't make you stressed. People that make you feel excited to be with. When I think of Crossroads, I think of warmth and peace. I feel no fear or shame. Find the support that does the same for you. Here at MSUM, that can be by attending student orgs that have the same interests as you. I started attending Crossroads and was part of the Rainbow Dragons learning community. Both had supporting communities that made me feel safe in being me. How do you show support to someone to be themselves? Let the person share their worries and concerns. Let them share their positive moments and celebrate their achievements. Create that non-judgmental space for them so they can flourish into the human that they're meant to be. I'm in the sorority Delta Zeta. And if you told high school me that I was in a sorority, the one that didn't go to prom because it was too cool, I would have laughed. I love sorority life, but there are a few bumps to it. However, my big sister Jade helps me through it all. In times I feel fear and shame, she listened and provided support and comfort to me. I was never judged by anything she said to me, and she always was there for me. I had a safe space that allowed me to be my raw self, and that is so important when helping someone. If you want to create a safe space for someone, allow them to be themselves. Don't show judgment, because judgment is likely what may cause them to hide themselves in the first place. Living your authentic self with intersectionality can be difficult, but it's important. It doesn't matter what others think. It doesn't matter if people think Christians can't support certain groups. It doesn't matter if people think sorority makes you superficial. It doesn't matter what people think. Being your true, authentic self makes you happy and feel wonderful. You will not be in hiding. Sharing yourself and your ideas proudly is so important to our campus, our community, and the world. So go ahead and be you.
Thank you, Nicole, for sharing your story, your authenticity, and your lessons with us. I hope you all look for ways to be more authentic in your own lives. Let's give her another round of applause. MSUM hosts Speak Up for a number of different reasons, and events like Speak Up matter a lot to our student body and community. This is because they help us demonstrate our MSUM values of grit, humility, and heart, demonstrating the importance of self-discovery and that identity is a valuable part of everyone. Speak Up is a way for us to elevate the voices, talents, and stories of our MSUM Dragons. Speaking of talent, our next performer of this evening is Rachel Meyer. Rachel Meyer is a singer-songwriter who's just recently released her new debut album, Neon Lights. She's been performing in the Fargo-Moorhead area for a year now, with notable performances at the Aquarium and a TV episode on Prairie Musicians. Tonight she'll be performing 2 originals, 2 years ago from her EP and an unreleased song called This Time. Let's give it up for Rachel!
2 years ago, I thought you were cute, so I went for you. I'd never done that. I was new in town and we hung out. You were interested, led me on to my first kiss. 2 years ago, you left me for a girl, never loved me. It's crazy how time shifts things in the world. Once we're friends, then didn't talk. Now we're doing things without feelings. We're not quite two we once were 2 years ago. Now we're talking again. You made it clear that we're just friends. Then suddenly you invite me over for the night. You say it's no feelings kind of thing and we'll go back to friends. I hesitate, might catch feelings one more, miss you. Do I dare risk our friendship? I am lonely, wanting some attention, but you say it's no feelings. We both want some attention. It's crazy how time shifts things in the world. Once we're friends and didn't talk. Now we're doing things without feelings. We're not quite two we once were 2 years ago. We're not quite who we once were 2 years ago. It's 4 a.m. the night after I said I love you. But there's a catch, it's been years that we've been saying it. We've loved and lost so many times already. Confessed our feelings several times over years. But this time feels different to me. This time feels it's been since we first felt some sort of feeling. We let months pass and we fell for other people. We even claimed that we found our forever love. But our hearts knew that love was only temporary. We've loved and lost so many times already. Confessed our feelings several times over years. But this time feels different to me. This time feels, ooh, ooh. It's 5 a.m., the sun sees the same old story. Two fools in love, too scared to lose forever. Will they risk it all to feel the love that's dwelling? Will they confess their honest love for each other? 'Cause this time feels different, ooh. This time feels some type of way. This time feels indescribable. This time feels like love.
Thank you, Rachel. That was a lovely performance. Let's give it up one more time for Rachel Meyer. It's time to keep the learning going with our next speaker, Dominic T. Oliver. Dominic works in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion here at MSUM, supporting students, events, and programs. Dominic is a black man who grew up in the inner city of South Florida. And he says that as you grow up, you learn things from watching the world around you. You see how stereotypes affect people's lives. You begin to see how a person's identity impacts the way that society views them and how many unfair challenges are put in front of people. We must find ways to overcome the stereotypes that drive our thinking, or people will continue to face the great challenges because of poverty, police brutality, school systems, and racial discrimination. Even in success, black people are often minoritized and only seen as stereotypes, not as individuals. As a black man, he fights stereotypes every day. It's a fight that is ongoing. It's tiresome and frustrating. Dominic lives with the complicated challenges of systemic racism and is here to share his perspective as a black man, helping us think about how to overcome our initial thoughts about others and moving beyond stereotypes. Welcome to the stage, Dominic T. Oliver.
Good evening, everyone. How's it going? Good, nice. Good job on the looky lady. That was really nice. Well, like I said, my name is Dominic T. Oliver, and I have about 13 to 12 kids right now, about like 6 different females. This is a joke. I was joking. So but y'all silence proved one of my points of stereotypes. Like, you know, if I would have said that, y'all probably would believe me. Then the next question was like, hey, how much child support you pay? And then the conversation continues, the stuff I deal with on the daily at work or at school or just in daily lifestyles. And it becomes frustrating to the point it's like, just give him a pass, he didn't mean nothing by it. Or just try to take it to side like, he didn't mean no harm. But just dealing with the stereotypes, you learn how to maneuver around them with dealing with people and whose intentions was real or they're just being mean to do it. I kind of learned that growing up, but then you also learn how to just adjust to people who you're dealing with, because I grew up in a melting pot in South Florida, whereas up here, it's predominantly a white neighborhood, but everybody's friendly, but you still get stereotyped. So just going into that, you know, so just dealing with it, say at a grocery store, when I ask for chicken, the lady just goes straight for the fried. I like grilled chicken. I don't want to get cholesterol, but you're assuming all black people like fried chicken. You at least could have just asked. That's all I'm saying, all right? But it's frustrating for me for that. Or you're assuming I'm harming my kid because I have muscles, or I'm beating them or something like that, when I'm not, just because you see them crying. Or you assume I'm abusing because I'm strong. Or you assume I'm a professional athlete just because of my size, where it's okay to be big and strong on a field versus being in public, because every black man is almost, depending on where they're at or who they're at, they can be a hashtag. And that's a fear that every black man deals with on the daily, and the parents fear that for their children. And I just want you to think about it for a second. If you was to get stereotyped, if someone just assumed your life was easy just because you're white, or assume that you just a boring old cat woman, or you're a Karen type of person that complains about calling the police on a little girl selling water outside just because your name was actually Karen, and you had to deal with that all the time. But I'm black, so I can't change my skin tone. You can change, you know, you can change your sex, you can change your income status, but I cannot change my skin tone. I can't change that. I can't change that, and I have to deal with it on a daily basis. And it's just become frustrating. And the only thing I ask, my goal is here, I want you guys to actually, you see people every day, give them a chance to really just know them for who they are as an individual person. Not just because you see them, you assume. Why not say, hey man, how you doing? What's your name? Okay, cool. All right, nice meeting you. Oh, okay. You want to grab some coffee? And then start a friendship, or just see what that person's really like. You see them all the time, or that person at work, and challenge yourself to get to know them as a person and not their race. Look at them as their soul and just talk to them, you know? Because you must understand that dealing with this is a hard thing. And I'm working with students now that's in the community that deal with it all the time. And he's getting called the N-word at school, and then they bring the student in, and they're grilling the black kid about saying if you would do something to him, he's gonna get an assault charge. But they're not grilling the other student by saying that's a hate crime. But he's scared to fight because he don't want to get a charge on his record, and he's 12. So he's in fear of getting a charge, but then also he's feeling down because he's getting called the N-word all the time. And then the parents feel stuck because they don't know what to do about it. And that's when I step in and try to go talk to people and try to help them navigate this, especially with other new Americans as well that don't understand our system and how things work here. And those stereotypes, you know, honestly, they work in some of our favor, and sometimes they don't. They may pick me on the basketball team. Hey, you want to pick? Yeah, I don't play basketball. I don't know how to play basketball. Y'all assume I know how to play basketball, but I don't. I wrestle. So, you know what I mean? I don't play football. I can't catch. But, you know, so don't pick me. And don't assume, you don't want nobody to assume you got a 750 credit score just because you're white. You don't want nobody to assume your life was easy or your parents did everything for you, that you're lazy. Like, he can't handle that. He's white. Or, oh, he can know how to do math. That's an Asian kid. That's not fair. And you don't want to deal with that stereotype. And it becomes frustrating, I won't say pointless, but it becomes, we learn to swallow it and try to move forward. But what I've just learned, and I just want you guys to understand that, give us a chance to get to know the person, and not this person or what they look like, but the person inside. And we're all individual people. We're not just what you see on TV. We're not all rap stars. We're not all athletes. Some of us are physicians, lawyers. Some of us are janitors. Some people like just to go to church. Hell, some of us just like to go to work, come home, have a beer, and go to sleep. It's just like y'all do. and have a good time. So thank you for your time, guys.
I think it's more than safe to say Dominic is helping change our perspectives and our way of thinking. MSUM is so fortunate to have Dominic contributing his many talents to our campus and supporting other students through his work. Thank you for your work, Dominic. It does not go unappreciated. All right, our next speaker is Kirsten Jensen. She has worked in the intersection of communication and technology her entire career. As the Associate Vice President of Marketing at Minnesota State University Moorhead, Kirsten leads a small but mighty team dedicated to sharing MSUM's story and helping prospective students see themselves as dragons. She believes in the magic of gratitude and the healing power of a good laugh. She's thankful to live in a house full of boys who make her laugh every day. And to provide a demonstration of this iconic laugh, I'm going to see how many bad dad jokes it takes to make her laugh so you all can hear it. All right. Hey, Kirsten. Air used to be free at the gas station. Now it costs $2.50. Do you want to know why? Inflation.
Close. Close.
All right. Okay. How do you throw a party in outer space?
How?
You plan it.
Was
Was that it?
That was better.
Okay. Don't quit my day job. Got it. What do you call a fancy fish?
I don't know.
Sophisticated.
I'm trying.
I'm sorry. Okay. Why was 6 afraid of 7?
I think my boys would tell me 7, 8, 9.
Dang it.
They're proud of me.
Okay. I ran out of jokes. Oh no, I wasn't prepared. Improv is hard. Kirsten Jensen, everybody.
All right. Oh, I went too far. All right. So I come from a family of big laughter. Lucky me, it's on both sides. And it's the kind of laughter where you laugh with your whole body, and when you're at a family gathering, sometimes the house seems like it's starting to shake a little bit. And even among my family, I have a very distinctive laugh. My boys will tell me you can hear me in a crowd. I'm excited tonight and honored tonight to share a little bit about my journey to accepting my laugh, because I didn't always embrace it. In his book, Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about the most transformative habits that we have are ones that we embrace as part of our identity. So instead of beating ourselves up, I need to exercise, I should exercise every day, we say to ourselves, I am a person who walks in the morning, and that is a transformative power to change our lives. I believe that embracing the unique parts of ourselves is a lot like making those habit changes. That, as Clear says, every vote, every action we take is a vote for the person we wish to become or to embrace. My memories of big laughter start with this guy. His name is Chuck. He was my dad's cousin, and you can just see it, right, that he has a giant laugh. This is the two of us when we were just a little bit younger, both of us. And you can see that my earliest memories of big laughter are that it's a little bit scary. It's big, I'm not so sure what to think about Chuck. And then this Kirsten is thoroughly annoyed by the big laughter because all the adults in the house are laughing in the basement and I am trying to sleep, and I blame Chuck because he's the loudest. But for the record, my Uncle Kurt would probably be right up there too. And then I discovered that I have the big laughter. That's not the right one. That I have the big laughter. And I was really embarrassed. I was embarrassed about my laugh for a really long time. It made me feel like I stood out and I stuck out in a crowd when I just wanted to fit in. And so I learned to make my laugh smaller, to filter it for a lot of my life. And the hardest part about that desire, that intense desire to filter and to make yourself smaller and to fit in, is that often it robs us of the very thing that helps us feel really connected to other people. In high school, I was lucky enough to learn that big laughter could be a superpower. This is my mom. She has a really great laugh too. I was a theater kid, and our theater director would ask my mom to come to the opening night of every production because she would know exactly when to laugh, and because she would do it so loud that the whole audience would warm up. And it would change the whole experience of the play. And that was my first sense that laughter could be this invitation to connect, and that it could bring joy to the people around you. And that was an important lesson to learn at that point in my life. In his book, The Art of Gathering, so Charles Vogel says that when we feel a crisis of belonging, that invitation to connect can be the thing that plants us firmly in a sense of community. And I was really lucky to learn that in the theater. Now let's fast forward to the world of work. So the year is 2010. I am the director of digital marketing at Sanford Health. I have 5 team members who work in Sioux Falls and 4 in Fargo. And so we spend a lot of time on video conference. And yes, I said 2010. We were on video conference all the time, way before it was the thing everyone was doing. So I am deep in work. So I'll set the scene a little bit. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I've been working on a project. I need to talk to Jarl, one of my teammates in Sioux Falls, and I probably have a little sticky note next to my desk on my desk that says the 3 or 4 points that I want to make sure that I talk to him about, and I'm laser focused. So I hit the button to call Jarl, and Jarl answers, and what is on the screen is this. And I still laugh every time I think about this story. So it was so completely unexpected and so amazing that I laughed with no filters for minutes. The IMs started coming in, right? So people are like, I can hear you laughing all the way in Sioux Falls. And someone else is like, I love hearing your laugh. And then someone else said, I started laughing too. And it sounds a little silly, but this was a really vulnerable moment for me. I was laughing with no filters, and it was celebrated. And it really became a pivotal moment where I resolved that I would try to put fewer filters on my laugh and just let people enjoy with me that moment. So I made a vote to become a person who embraces her laugh. But that doesn't mean that I didn't have to keep making that choice over and over. At my next job, I was at a bridal shower, so this is the wedding, but close enough. And there were about 4 of us from work, and everyone else came from out of town. So there were maybe 25 or 30 people that I'd never met before, and one of the stories really hit my funny bone, and I started to laugh. And you can feel the heads start to turn, and people, just this general vibe of, I wonder who that is. And I looked at my coworkers, and especially at the bride-to-be, and I just thought, she is enjoying this, so I am going to embrace my laugh. And I made a vote to be the person who embraces her laugh yet again. But I can't say enough times that it is a choice that we have to make every single day. And so sometimes I will think through how do I set myself up for success? If I'm going into a situation that is going to be I'm going to be a little unsure, how do I set myself up that it's okay to laugh? I'm currently the AVP of marketing here at MSUM, and when I applied for this job 3.5 years ago, I knew that a big laugh in the middle of the interview process could be distracting, right? It could be something that would maybe turn a few heads. And so one of the choices I made was to put a little warning in my cover letter. And at the bottom of the cover letter, it says, P.S. I bring a very distinctive laugh to the table. It may turn heads on occasion, but it also brings a little ray of sunshine. I promise meetings will never be the same. And I trusted that if y'all were my people, that would be embraced, and I'm really happy that I wasn't wrong. I hope that someday, because I have embraced my laugh over and over, that people will reflect with all the feelings about my laugh the way I reflect on Chuck. And my hope for you is that you won't hide your magic, that you will embrace the unique parts of yourself in a way that makes everyone else feel comfortable doing the same, and that every day you'll take a vote to become the person that you wish to be. Thank you.
I hope you're as inspired as I am by Kirsten and her joyous laughter as you think about how to embrace all the parts of yourself. And I hope you take after her and let yourself laugh out loud as often as you want to, though I promise no more jokes from me for the rest of the program. Let's bring up our next performer of the evening, Soulfire. Soulfire is an advanced pop a cappella band that performs a wide variety of literature from an array of time periods. This ensemble is completely a cappella, performing with no instrumental accompaniment. Let's welcome Soulfire to the stage.
Close your eyes, lay your head down. Now it's time to sleep. May you find great adventure as you lie and dream. If you're scared of the darkness, I will calm your fear. There's a light in the hallway, so you'll know I'm here.
So count your blessings every day. It makes the monsters go away, and everything will be okay. You are not alone. You are right at home. Good night. Good night. You won't need me forever, but I'll still be here. For we all have our nightmares, even me, my dear. From now on, if you need me, you can sing this song. There's a light in the hallway, burning all night long. So count your blessings every day.
It makes the monsters go away, and everything will be okay. You are not alone. You are right at home. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Hats off to Soulfire. Thank you for that fabulous music treat. What a fun performance. Yeah, give them another round of applause. Before we bring out our next speaker, I want to remind you that the purpose of hosting Speak Up is to demonstrate that identity is an important part of every single person. You've listened to these dragons share their ideas and stories tonight, and I hope they've inspired you to explore your own identity and help others do the same. Our theme, The Purpose of Identity, serves to remind us that our identities play an important role in empowering us to make positive contributions to our communities. We hope that through tonight's talks, you start to think more about how all the different parts of your identity make you, you. Our next speaker this evening is Drew Perry. Drew will be graduating this spring and is double majoring in criminal justice and sociology. Drew was born and raised in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. She is also a student athlete for the MSUM Swim and Dive team and has worked as an RA and desk manager for the Housing and Residential Life Department for 3 years. Funny story, actually, Drew was my RA my freshman year here at MSUM, and she was one of the driving forces that made me feel so much more comfortable here at MSUM, despite the challenges that the fall of 2020 and the spring of 2021 brought us. So I'm so excited to hear her speak tonight. In her talk, Drew will be discussing the strong black woman stereotype and her experience with it. Let's welcome Drew to the stage with a round of applause.
Yes, Lauren was one of my babies, and I love her so much, and I'm so glad that she is still here. Once again, I am Drew Perry. The strong black woman. She is unbreakable, resilient, almost superhuman. She's the type of woman that can stand all kinds of tribulations and come out even stronger. She is the human embodiment of what doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. Strong is such a loaded word when used to describe black women. It's beautiful, but also dangerous. It both buoys and burdens black women with the myth that we are perpetually tough and uniquely indestructible. The motto, "we must lift as we climb," is taught and ingrained in all black girls and black women, and we continue to pass this teaching down from generation to generation. As we teach and live life like a strong black woman, our physical and mental health are in jeopardy when assuming this role. In an article by Therapy for Black Girls, author Shimmery Holmes says,
It's admirable to be deemed a strong woman amidst an unfavorable society that operates according to an unconscious code riddled with inequity and misogyny. The strong black woman stereotype is a century-old cultural trope that cuts as deep as a double-edged sword for most black women in our country. Black women have been taught to internalize this persona as if it were some sort of cultural badge of honor. Despite being discriminated against in employment, education, and healthcare sectors alike, black women are expected to just tough it up and keep pushing. Many black women in our country report feeling pressure to act like superwomen, projecting themselves as strong, self-sacrificing, and free of emotions to cope with the stress of race and gender-based discrimination in daily lives. In the media, there are two shows that depict the cultural trope of the strong black woman, and those shows are Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder. For those of you who haven't seen those shows, Scandal is a political thriller that focuses on the career of Olivia Pope, and How to Get Away with Murder is a show that features Annalise Keating, a law professor and brilliant legal mind. Raise your hand if you've seen those shows. Few of you, yes. Olivia Pope and Annalise Keating, both black women, have constantly shown TV audiences how to win. But within their winnings, it almost always comes at the expense of themselves. Olivia Pope and Annalise Keating demonstrate the expectation to perform like superhumans while being treated subhuman, making it harder for black people around them, or not making it harder for people around them to see black women and the full spectrum of our lived experience, and it makes it difficult for us to see ourselves. In those shows, you see both Annalise Keating and Olivia Pope falling into addictive behavior, such as drinking to cope with the stress of being a strong black woman. Too often we think that what we see on TV is reality, and shows like that shape how we think. How the strong black woman stereotypes exist in our entertainment can have a real-world impact. In recent months, there was a woman who seemed to have it all. Beautiful, talented, smart. She was a Division I athlete, an attorney, and the 2019 Miss USA pageant winner. Her name was Chelsea Christ. She presented herself as strong and resilient. After her reign as Miss USA, she became a correspondent for Extra and lived in a luxurious apartment building in New York City. Society believed that she lived a good life. In 2020, Chelsea Christ discussed how she took care of her mental health. This is what she said in an interview. There are 3 things I'm doing with regard to self-care. Number 1, I try to set a regular schedule so my alarm rings at 6:45 a.m. I know that I'm getting up and starting my day. 2, I try to set very clear boundaries. So even when I'm home and I've got my computer or my cell phone, by 6 o'clock, I am done, it's over with. And number 3, she says, I have a regular workout schedule that keeps my mind and body sharp. We hear those things and believe that what she's doing is amazing. We saw the glamorous lifestyle, her accomplishments, and even believed her self-care routine. But as a society, we failed to see her carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders and showing the world how strong she was. Chelsea Christ ended up taking her life in January of 2022. She was a strong black woman that was strong enough for everyone else, but forgot to put herself first. How do you know if you're a strong black woman? Dr. Cheryl Giscombe developed what she calls the Black Superwoman schema and says there are 5 characteristics of the Black Superwoman. 1 is a perceived obligation to present an image of strength. The 2nd is a perceived obligation to suppress emotions. The 3rd is resistance to vulnerability or dependence on help from others. The 4th is a motivation to succeed despite limited resources. And the 5th is prioritization of caregiving or providing care to others, in contrast of balancing that with self-care. Those 5 resonate with me. Since I was 9 years old, I was awarded the Strong Black Woman crown. I thought being strong would make me invincible to the world. I woke up every morning putting on a body of armor for protection against the world and didn't even know it. Growing up, none of my friends of color showed emotion out in the public, but when we were in private, we would cry and express how we felt. We had practiced masking our emotions, just as our mothers and our grandmothers did. Since being in college, I have gone through some pretty heavy stuff. Being a college athlete and being 1,000 miles away from home was a burden that I carried in silence. I believed I couldn't ask for help or show my emotions. From the Black women that mentored me in societal pressures, I believed that showing that I was human was a sign of weakness, and my armor became heavier each day. During my time here, my body of armor burdened me, and instead of feeling protected and insulated, I felt isolated. I felt like every day I couldn't take off my armor, but I was adding more and more weight. I felt like no one could protect me from what I was dealing with but me. The everyday racism and harassment I dealt with made me feel emotionally and physically trapped. Everyone was telling me, "Drew, you are so strong, you can handle anything that comes your way. Don't let what they're saying or doing affect you." Every time I heard that, it made me upset because the reality was that I was dying on the inside. I was confused as to why people couldn't understand that I was human and that I had feelings and they had been hurt. I would call my mother every day crying because I felt like no one understood me, and what better else to call another Black woman who can relate to me. As my mom would hear my pain, I could hear her pain because she knew she could not protect her child. I knew I couldn't keep going on like this. Going into the fall semester of 2021, I realized I needed help. I could no longer hide what I was feeling because no matter how much I tried, something kept telling me to let it out. Be vulnerable, go get help, and it's okay to cry. I couldn't be the superwoman people needed me to be. I went to counseling and started to get the help I needed. I'm not completely out of my armor, but I work hard every day to make sure that I can decrease the weight that I am carrying. So how do we combat this? To all my Black women that are here and present, please know that there is strength in asking for help. You do not have to do it by yourself. Know that it is okay to feel. Please remember that you are human, you deserve to be loved, and you deserve to be cared for and loved. To the rest of my audience, if you truly want to be an ally to Black women, it's time to stop expecting Black women to be strong and start allowing us to be human. Strong is not the rent we pay to exist as Black women in this world. Please know and understand that Black women don't owe the world our spirit if it means breaking it. The most radical thing society can do for Black women is throw off the shackles forged by the strong Black woman stereotype and afford us a full and complex humanity that allows us to be capable, strong, and independent, but also carried and cared for. We need a world in which Black women can truly accept that allowing for physical and emotional vulnerability is not a weakness. It's a part of being human. We need a world in which Black women don't need to be so strong. We need a world in which we can be celebrated for everything else we can be. We need a world that sees us as fully human. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew, and more importantly, thank you for sharing your passion for breaking the strong Black woman stereotype. It is so important for all of us to recognize the ways that stereotypes create pressure and don't leave space for authenticity. Let's give her another round of applause. Our final speaker this evening is Alicia Nelson. Alicia is a senior at MSUM studying social work and political science with a minor in leadership studies. During her 4 years as a Dragon, she has held several student leadership positions, including student orientation counselor, news director at KMSC Dragon Radio, and vice president of Student Senate. Currently, she is a Dragon ambassador and treasurer of Student Senate. She is passionate for social justice and mental health, and she is currently putting these passions to work as an intern for YWCA Cass Clay and West Fargo Eats. Following her graduation from MSUM this spring, Alicia plans to pursue a master's degree in social work and eventually become a licensed clinical social worker, allowing her to provide counseling services to clients. As a note, Alicia's talk will include a brief mention of self-harm. If this is troubling to you, please use your best judgment and feel free to take any measures necessary to ensure your own comfort. As a reminder, MSUM has counseling services available on campus for students, and there are many mental health providers in our community. Now, let's bring Alicia to the stage. Please give her a warm welcome.
I have a question for you. Can identity be changed? Whoops. Okay. Maybe if I stop pressing it. Let's see. Oh no. There we go. All right. Can identity be changed? I'm a firm believer that identity is changing constantly. And tonight, I plan to make you all believers too. Everyone here probably saw some great evidence of this on their social media pages this January. Who here is familiar with the 10-year challenge? Great. For those of you that aren't, I've asked some friends to help me put together some examples. This is Jess Mueller, 10 years ago, and Jess Mueller, our current student body president. Some of you might know Annie Wood, who had a hand in putting this event together tonight. Here's Annie Wood 10 years ago, in some not-so-familiar regalia. And Annie Wood from this past summer. As you can see from these examples, one aspect in which our identity changes is through our appearance. Maybe our style changes, our skin shows signs of aging. We grow and even sometimes shrink. Maybe we dye our hair or get tattoos or piercings. All of these changes impact our identities, who we see ourselves as and who others determine us to be. But identity can change in many other ways too. To explain why I think the fluidity of identity is invaluable, I'd like to tell you a story. This is me 10 years ago. As the fifth of 6 children, I felt like nothing about me was uniquely my own. Family, friends, and relatives would compare me to my dad, my mom, my older siblings, my younger brother, and even my cousins at times. I felt that no matter the choices I made or the way I behaved, I would be locked into this box of being just like someone else. There was no space for me to be an individual. It was about this time that I started to think of identity as this predetermined thing. I felt like every person just turned into some combination of their parents or family members with no power to change it. Now for me, this was an incredibly frightening idea. My parents had gotten divorced when I was 8 years old, and their divorce was far from what you could call amicable. So I grew up hearing my parents blame each other, call each other names, and tell scary stories where the monsters were each other. Needless to say, I was not excited for who I would grow up to be. On top of this, I went through a combination of bullying and verbal abuse as a child, which left me with dwindling self-worth, low self-esteem, and a litany of negative traits I ascribed to myself. I felt lost and like I had no control over my life. From my perspective, I was at a low point with nowhere to go but down. I struggled a lot with feeling like I had no value or purpose, feeling like I would become this intangible idea of a bad person and there was nothing that I could do to stop it. I was furious with my parents, like many teenagers are, but also with myself for embodying everything that I hated about them. I had so much rage and hurt inside myself that I felt the need to get it out somehow, to physically manifest this pain in some way. So, like about 5 to 10% of teenagers in Western countries, I turned to self-injurious behaviors. This quickly landed me in a psychiatric hospital intake room. And while I didn't end up staying at the hospital then, this event was the catalyst for a string of therapists and mental health hospitals I would be in throughout my adolescence. Finally, I started seeing a therapist who I truly connected with. She helped me feel heard in a way I had never experienced and helped me realize that I had power over my identity. But what does it mean to take charge of your own identity? Before I go on, I have another question for you, and I'd like you to write this one down on a piece of paper, in your phone, or wherever is convenient. So here's my question. Who are you? Start with I am, and finish a short statement. Great. Hopefully you've got something down. Maybe some of you are secure in the identity you've just written down. Or maybe some of you are attending this event tonight in hopes that you can understand the meaning of identity a bit better and start to get a better sense of your own. Wherever you're at in your identity journey right now, I'm willing to bet your answer to that question falls into one of these 3 categories: roles, values, and characteristics. Each of these categories is complex and variable, so let's determine a common definition for each of them. First, we have roles. Roles, for the purposes of this speech, are the parts one plays in relation to others. Roles can be formal, such as my roles as Student Senate Treasurer and Dragon Ambassador, or informal, like my roles as daughter, sister, and girlfriend. The second category, values, are what one sees as important or prioritizes. These can be tangible or intangible. So tangible values include things like pets, money, or heirlooms, while intangible values include non-physical qualities like honesty, compassion, or faith. Values can also be both internal and external. Perhaps you value courage in others and intelligence in yourself. This impacts the people you choose to surround yourself with, the social groups you seek out, and the way you interact with others. Characteristics, the third category, is generally where we have the least control. They include qualities like our national origin, race, gender identity, sexual orientation, and family composition. Characteristics tend to be the most talked about aspect of identity, and as such, tend to be what people think of as their entire identity. While these elements are important and can have major impacts on how we experience society, as we've heard tonight, they're not my point of focus today. So these categories are the basis for harnessing your power over your identity: roles, values, and characteristics. Roles tend to be the easiest to change. They take the least commitment to alter. For example, if I no longer like my role as a student, I can simply stop taking classes. Of course, there are consequences to that action. I no longer get my degree, for one, and I stop receiving the benefits of being a student, like access to the wellness center or the student discount I get on my car insurance. But I can make that decision to stop going to class at any time. The same concept applies to jobs, friendships and romantic relationships, club memberships, and so on. However, some roles are more difficult to change, such as my roles as a sister and daughter. There is an element of inevitability to these roles. For example, I will always be someone's child, but I can alter the way I fulfill these roles. I can choose to make them larger or smaller parts of my identity by altering how much I interact within them, performing activities like calling my mom or going to visit my siblings. I can also change how much I value these roles as a part of my life. If I feel like being a sister is important to me, I associate my identity more with that role. Which brings me to my next category, values. Values take longer to change, but a successful change of your values can present a deeper and more meaningful alteration of your identity than changing roles. When you change what you value externally, you begin to seek out different types of roles and opportunities. For example, if you successfully shift what you value in your career from being money and power to being the ability to make a change or impact someone's life, you might change the types of jobs you're looking for, the keywords that get your attention in job postings, and even the sorts of organizations you consider for employment. Looking internally and shifting what you value about yourself from being intelligence per se to compassion and empathy can impact the way you interact with others across every role you occupy. Finally, we have characteristics. While some characteristics, such as our national origin, the families we were born into, and our race, can't be changed, there are some characteristics we have control over. Many characteristics are based around familial or societal norms and belief systems. For example, maybe you're genetically female and identify as a woman because that is the societal norm, and you've never thought to question it. Maybe, like me, you were brought up in a household with certain faith-based beliefs. As a younger person, I attended church services and confirmation classes because I was raised in a family that identified as Christian. I began to question this faith system in my early teenage years and eventually discovered that I didn't identify as a Christian. I knew that I would have to forge an identity separate from the central beliefs of those around me. But I still attended church with my family because it was expected of me. As an adult, the freedom to find my own belief systems has been liberating and served as a fundamental shift in my identity. Changes to our religion or spirituality, sexual orientation, and gender identity can shift as we grow, learn more about ourselves, and discover what identities feel right to each of us. So while these changes undoubtedly take the biggest investment, from the amount of self-discovery they require to the actualization of these aspects of our identities, they also tend to have the biggest impact on our daily lives. These can be incredibly difficult and wildly important transformations. Changes to these aspects of our identities are often the key to feeling like our truest selves. So, what does my 10-year challenge look like? How did I harness my power over my identity, and who did I become? I guess we'll never find out. Oh. Here it is. I've changed my roles the most, becoming a student leader in multiple capacities, a social worker, and a soon-to-be college graduate. But I've also changed my values, shifting away from only valuing my own resilience. When I was younger, I thought the only admirable thing about me was that I could take a hit and get back up again. While I do still value this, and I see its importance, I've expanded my internal values to include things like leadership, compassion, and understanding. This has shifted how I interact with others, allowing me to be open and nurturing rather than constantly guarded. I've even changed some of my characteristics. And through these changes, I've slowly become someone that I'm proud of, my own self, with an identity of my own creation. I won't pretend this was easy. It took the better part of a decade and immeasurable growing pains. But living as someone I chose to become is the most gratifying, freeing feeling I could describe. It's the difference between the opportunity to greet each new day and the obligation to wake up every morning. So, if I can leave you with one question from my talk tonight, I'd like it to be this. Who do you want to be in 10 years' time? And how can you start becoming that you of tomorrow, your truest self, tonight? Thank you.
Alicia, thank you for reminding us that we have the power to choose who we are and no one gets to decide our identity for us. I hope that you are all inspired to continue exploring your identity. As we close tonight, I want to say thank you to all the folks that made this possible. To our 6 speakers and 3 performers, let's give them one more big round of applause. It is not easy to get up here and talk like that, and you all absolutely blew us away. Thank you for your hard work. I'd also like to take a moment to extend a thank you to our Speak Up planning team that includes Fleury Clark, Annie Wood, Caitlin Haugard, and John Dvorak, who I also had the honor of serving with as a member of the planning team to bring this amazing event to life. A huge shout out to the CMU staff and the Dragon Entertainment Group for helping make this event happen, to Sweet for their audio and tech support, and another big thanks to John Wepking and the MSUM Go team for their help with live streaming this event. Finally, one last thank you to the audience for being here, whether that's virtually or here in person with us. We hope that you take these ideas to heart and start to think about what your own identity means to you. My name is Lauren Werscher. I've been your MC for this evening, and this has been Speak Up 2022. I wish you all safe travels on your way home. Have a good night.